Most of the suffering in life doesn't come from what we actually want, but from what we think we are supposed to want. From childhood, we are handed a set of rules, a script, a scoreboard that tells us what it means to succeed. Study hard, get good grades, go to a good school, land a secure job, buy a house, raise a family, retire at 65. That is the default game most people are taught to play. And while there is nothing inherently wrong with it, the problem arises when you never stop to question whether this is actually the game you want. The world is full of people who are climbing ladders that they never leaned against the right wall. They are running a race they never chose. They are optimizing for trophies that don't bring them happiness. They are playing by rules designed by someone else, chasing goals that belong to someone else. And when they finally arrive, when they reach the so-called finish line, they discover that it was never their finish line to begin with. That's the tragedy of living without redefining the game. If you want to create a life without limits, you have to begin by asking a simple but radical question: whose game am I playing? It takes courage to step back and examine the rules you have unconsciously accepted. Because most people don't. They just keep playing, chasing, striving, competing. It's easier to follow the crowd, easier to measure your worth by comparison, easier to accept the scoreboard society hands you. But easy is not the same as true. Redefining the game means realizing that there is no single path, no universal definition of success, no mandatory ladder to climb. Life is not a one-size-fits-all contest. It is a vast open field of possibilities. You can design your own game, write your own rules, decide your own goals. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. Yes, there are constraints. Yes, there are trade-offs. But most of the so-called limits are social constructs. They exist in the mind more than they exist in the world. Think about the people who inspire you most: the innovators, the creators, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the thinkers. They didn't follow the standard playbook. They questioned it, they broke it, they created their own version of the game, one that aligned with their curiosity, their talents, their inner compass. That's why they stand out. That's why their lives feel expansive instead of confined. The paradox is that once you redefine the game, competition almost disappears. Because now, you are playing in a field where you have a natural advantage. You're no longer trying to beat everyone else at their game. You're playing a game that only you can play, with rules that you designed. This is what Naval calls finding your specific knowledge. It's about leaning into the unique blend of interests, skills, and experiences that make you you. When you operate from that place, you don't feel the weight of comparison because nobody else can compete with your authenticity. And when you are playing your own game, the pursuit itself becomes fulfilling. You stop seeing life as a sequence of finish lines. You stop postponing happiness until the next goal, the next promotion, the next milestone. Instead, the process itself becomes enjoyable. Every step feels aligned, every challenge feels meaningful, every success feels like your success, not society's definition of success, but your own. Redefining the game is not a one-time event. It is a continual process of questioning, of peeling back layers, of asking yourself, am I still playing the game that matters to me, or have I slipped back into someone else's script? Because the world will always try to pull you back. There will always be pressure to conform, to compare, to prove yourself by external measures. The discipline is to keep reminding yourself that freedom lies in defining your own scoreboard. The truth is, there is no ultimate winner in life. There is no final trophy, no universal applause, no permanent victory. The only real win is to live a life that feels authentic to you, a life where your choices are aligned with your values, a life where the journey itself feels worth it. That's the game worth playing, so when you find yourself stuck, anxious, or unfulfilled, pause and ask, what game am I playing? And do I even want to play this game? That single question has the power to dissolve invisible limits and open doors to possibilities you never saw before. Because the limits only exist if you accept them. The moment you decide to play your own game, You discover what was true all along. There are no limits, only possibilities. In the modern world, opportunities are abundant, but competition is fierce. Everyone has access to the same internet, the same textbooks, the same degrees, the same how-to videos. If you try to win by following the same path as everyone else, you are just another player in an infinite crowd. That's why most people feel stuck in a cycle of chasing but never arriving. They are competing in games where the rules reward conformity, and conformity means replaceability. The antidote to this is to build on what cannot be copied, to find the leverage that comes from being uniquely you. Think about it. Capital can be raised, labor can be hired, technology can be borrowed. Those things are not scarce. What is scarce is authenticity. Your specific knowledge, the blend of talents, obsessions, and life experiences that no one else can duplicate. The world tries to push you toward generalization, to smooth out your quirks, to make you fit into boxes. But the irony is that the quirks are the gold. The odd intersections of your interests, the things you do effortlessly but others find difficult, the patterns of thought you naturally fall into, those are your edge. When you focus on what can't be copied, you escape the trap of competition. Instead of trying to be slightly better than the next person at the same game, you create a game where you stand alone. Consider someone who loves storytelling, has a knack for technology, and a passion for psychology. That unique intersection may lead to a path in creating groundbreaking educational platforms, or designing experiences that teach through narrative. If that person tried to suppress one of those passions because it didn't fit into a standard career, they would lose the very leverage that makes them irreplaceable. This kind of leverage is not about working harder in the traditional sense. It's about aligning with the currents that flow naturally within you. When you do the thing you can't help but do, the thing you would do even if nobody paid you, the thing that feels like play to you but looks like work to others, you begin to generate compounding returns. You stop pushing against resistance and instead ride momentum. That momentum is difficult for others to replicate because it isn't built on brute effort, it's built on authenticity. In a world saturated with copies, people crave originality. Audiences, markets, communities, they all sense when something is genuine. You might think your voice is too small, your perspective too niche, your passions too strange. But in the age of global connection, even the strangest niche finds resonance. 1,000 true fans is enough to sustain a meaningful career, and those fans are not looking for another generic product or another copy-paste personality. They are looking for the rare, the authentic, the irreplaceable. They are looking for you, but only if you are brave enough to show up as yourself. This is why Naval often says play long-term games with long-term people, because when you invest in the things that can't be copied, they grow in value over time. Your reputation compounds, your network compounds, your unique knowledge compounds. Every interaction, every creation, every expression adds another layer that deepens your authenticity. And unlike borrowed tools or temporary strategies, no one can take that away. It becomes your permanent leverage. The challenge is that society rarely rewards this at the beginning. Early on, your uniqueness may look like a weakness. The world may tell you that you're unfocused, unrealistic, unconventional. But what they see as odd is exactly what will set you free later. The greatest breakthroughs, the most enduring careers, the most fulfilling lives are not built by people who blended in, but by those who leaned fully into what only they could do. It takes patience and courage to trust that the very thing that isolates you today may become the source of your strength tomorrow. Leverage that can't be copied doesn't just change your career, it changes how you experience life. Because when you are rooted in authenticity, your work stops being a mask you wear to earn money and starts being an extension of who you are. The boundary between work and play dissolves. Effort feels lighter, progress feels natural, and setbacks feel less threatening because they don't shake your identity. You are no longer trying to win in someone else's arena. You are simply unfolding in your own. So, when you find yourself asking how to get ahead, pause and ask a different question. What do I have that nobody else does? What do I know deeply, intuitively, uniquely? What feels like play to me but looks like work to others? Those answers point toward your leverage. Build from there, nurture it, share it, protect it, because the greatest power you have is not in competing harder, but in making competition irrelevant. And that happens when you leverage what can't be copied. One of the deepest traps in life is the need for approval. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek validation. A child learns that good grades earn praise, obedience earns love, conformity earns safety. That conditioning doesn't just vanish when we grow up. It evolves into an endless chase for external recognition. Adults pursue promotions to feel respected, buy luxury items to appear successful, post on social media to gather likes. At every step, the invisible hand guiding decisions is not freedom, but the craving for someone else's approval. And yet, the paradox is that approval is a moving target. The moment you achieve it, the standard shifts, and the hunger begins again. It is an unwinnable game. To live a life of possibilities, you must replace the pursuit of approval with the pursuit of freedom. Freedom is not about breaking every rule or escaping every responsibility. It is about aligning your actions with your values rather than with the expectations of others. It means you stop outsourcing your self-worth to the opinions of family, society, or strangers. Freedom is when your choices come from within, not from a scoreboard you didn't design. That shift alone transforms life from a constant performance into a genuine expression of self. The illusion of approval is that it seems like a reward, but in reality it is a leash. If your happiness depends on someone else's recognition, then they hold the strings of your life. Every compliment feels like a high, but it enslaves you to the next one. Every criticism feels like a wound, but it enslaves you to defend yourself. This cycle keeps you from taking risks, from speaking truth, from walking your own path. You stay trapped in the middle lane, never veering too far left or right, because the cost of disapproval feels unbearable. The tragedy is that in avoiding disapproval, you also avoid authenticity. Freedom requires courage, because the moment you stop chasing approval, disapproval will come. People will criticize, misunderstand, or dismiss you, but that is not failure. It is a sign you are finally standing on your own ground. The loudest voices of disapproval often reveal the invisible walls you've just broken through. And once you learn to live with that discomfort, you discover something extraordinary. Criticism loses its power. You realize that nobody's opinion can actually diminish you because your worth is not up for vote. This is why the highest form of wealth is not money but freedom. Money is just one tool that can buy pieces of freedom, like time or options, but true freedom is internal. It is the ability to wake up and know that you will spend the day according to your own compass. It is the confidence to act without needing applause. It is the peace of mind that comes from not wearing a mask. When you are free, your decisions are no longer distorted by fear of judgment. You begin to live in alignment, and alignment is the source of lasting fulfillment. Think of the people who shaped history, art, or philosophy. None of them were universally approved in their lifetimes. The innovators were ridiculed before they were celebrated. The artists were dismissed before they were revered. The thinkers were condemned before they were understood. If they had waited for approval, their contributions would never have existed. Progress itself is built on the courage to choose freedom over conformity. When you stop chasing approval, something beautiful happens. You start attracting authenticity. The relationships you form are deeper because they are not based on performance. The work you do is more meaningful because it is not diluted to please everyone. The life you live feels lighter, because it is no longer weighed down by masks. Approval can win you followers, but freedom earns you peace, and in the end, peace is the only true measure of success. The practical way to begin is small. Notice where in your life you are driven by the need to be seen a certain way. Maybe you buy things not because you love them, but because they impress others. Maybe you say yes to commitments not because they excite you, but because you fear disappointing someone. Maybe you silence your voice in a room not because you lack ideas, but because you fear judgment. Each of these moments is an invitation to choose differently. Step by step, you reclaim your freedom, and each choice strengthens your ability to live authentically. Approval is a currency that loses value the moment you receive it. Freedom is a treasure that grows more valuable the more you practice it. When you choose freedom, you stop asking, "What will they think of me?" and start asking, "What do I think of this life I'm living?" That is the only question that matters, because in the end, you are the one who has to live with your choices, your path, your truth, and the most limitless life is not the one most admired, but the one most free.